What's up, everyone? Ultimate Kahuna here. Today we will be discussing the Lord Otter's debut book, Steel and Stormbright, The Curse of the Star Wraiths. Anyway, introducing first, King Bob!
What up?
Then we have the big sack himself, Mr. Billy Bob Sack.
Kaplow, kaplow, kaplow.
Then we have, as Royce always refers to him incorrectly, TSBOL, or as we'll call him because we like him, Sybil.
What's cracking?
And then, from Frequency Studios, the Wrangler!
A whole lot of hola.
Hola! It's a local radio station that they always do that. None of them are Spanish, but it's just a thing. Anyway. So you guys ready to discuss a certain questionably sexually otter's book?
If he's an otter, he's a furry, so that just rules straight out.
Billy Bob came up with the name Fergus. At least it's never something I've heard about until now. But...
Actually, I can't take credit for that. That was for Flash Gets video.
Oh.
Yeah, he was so looking for clam-flavored Pop-Tarts the other day. Kind of weird.
Oh, that's a horse thing I've ever heard.
He doesn't eat clams, he eats clams. Figure that out.
So here we have our good old here's the book, the hardback edition you can find on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Good old The Curse of the Star Wraiths. Great cover art, interior and exterior by the great Neutron Boar of the Iron Age. What a legend.
Did the Neutron Boar do all the internal art, or was that...
Actually, there may have been one or two pieces that were done by someone else.
Yeah, so that's done by Umbrella Cat. Is the I think like 2 or 3 of them.
Oh, there wasn't a bad piece in there.
Agreed.
Yeah, for
Though
sure.
I have my favorite.
Oh, there we go. But yeah, no, I thank you for bringing that up. I did forget someone else did do some of the interior art as well. But that's one thing I do appreciate about his book, his debut novel. He really went all out on the art. And especially considering the fact that it's very pulpish, I think it helps a lot with some of the visuals. It really gives some context to the world.
It was one of those...
His glossary was impressive as well.
His what? Oh, yeah, the glossary.
Glossary. I went looking through that today. I'm like, oh, I'm embarrassed about mine now. You know.
Yeah, but he made a mistake.
Was nice and grow.
But he made a mistake in there.
Oh no, that's the thing. Some of the people on this panel were involved in the editing process and have a bit more of a peek behind the curtain, so to say.
Well, he keeps saying it's Karst, but it's actually Surst. I don't know why he keeps making that mistake.
Why don't we just call her Karen?
General Karen. She seduced the young boys. Holy smokes, dude. Actually, Wrangler, were you involved in the earlier parts, like kind of pre-release of his book as well?
No.
Did you help at all with that?
Nope,
or no?
I read this fresh. I had no idea going in.
And King Bob, what about you,
what
bro?
Billy kept saying.
I did the first and the second edit, assuming there were only the 2.
Yeah, he changed. It's hard to know how many edits there were because he kind of changed directions a couple of times. So for for Billy Bob, King Bob, and Sybil, since you guys have kind of been around for the longest and you guys have saw how the book transformed, how different is the final product versus what you saw way back in the day, pre alternate versions in editing?
I would say that when I was going through the manuscript and critiquing it, I made a handful of suggestions, and the largest change that I noticed had to do with Karst's character. Very near the end of the book, she made a decision that I thought seemed out of a character for her, so I suggested something else to him, and he sat down and said, yeah, she probably wouldn't do X and Y. She'd probably go and do Z. And then when I got the second edit of the book and went through it a second time just for the fine-tooth comb kind of edit where you're really paying attention to the mechanics and the grammar because you already know that the story and the characterization and everything else is where the author wants it to be.
Something closer to like a line-by-line edit. Yeah.
I noticed then that he had altered the ending a bit to kind of change what his villain did. And he hasn't committed to a second book yet, though I wouldn't be surprised if he's got some notes and stuff and has got some ideas for a second one. but the change he made really opened the second book up to having her as the villain, like be a recurring villain, and him getting more use out of her as a character. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I have talked to him a little bit behind the scenes recently too. It does look like the second book will happen. I'm not. I'd say I'm like 85% on that, but yeah.
Didn't he already
I can
start
neither
some work on that?
confirm nor deny. Do y'all know or y'all don't know?
Yeah, I thought he started some work on that, but
Wink, wink. Yes, he is actually working on the second one.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. I got one more to put on my shelf then.
Answers that question. Also, yes, behind me that is a Hawaiian 12 Days of Christmas book. Thanks for asking. I know you guys were just dying to know.
The biggest change, like really big change, was the ordering of the like first 3 or 4 chapters.
Yeah.
Do you know if you remember in Sybil?
I do, but like I think I got to it fairly late to the party. Like I'm pretty sure you critiqued the entire thing before I got my hands on it. So I did read the first version where the beginning of the book had a different order of events, but like immediately after that was when he was like, "Hey, I'm going to change this up." I'm not even sure if I critiqued the entire book before he sent the opening chapters back. I think that's how it went down. Actually, he changed it and asked me to go over it because someone else had suggested switching some things up.
Yeah, because it was like where they're starting out in the with the prison stuff as slaves and stuff, and like their escape. That was like the original like first and second chapter, and then like the
because the second draft actually introduced their home life a little bit and had Queen Bitch show up to their shit and wreck it.
Like after I got done reading that, when he sent that and them chapters, I was like, oh, these will work way better as the first. And then I don't know if he told Bob. I think he told Bob, Black Knight, and me that it was the original. That was supposed to be the original order as well.
Oh, who knows?
No, that's
at the end of the day. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it just ended up being one of those situations where working with other beta readers and authors just really helps you kind of see where you can make improvements.
Well, plus, sometimes it's not even that you can't see things. It's more that you have kind of fatigue from reading the same thing over and over again. Sometimes you just need that fresh set of eyes.
Very true.
Sybil, I know you've worked with that a bit. Wrangler, I know you've had people work with you, and I'm sure you've helped others along as well. And
yeah, I agree with you there. It's one of the reasons that I try to encourage anybody coming into the, space. If you want to be a writer, I think the first thing you need to do is reach out to other writers and share your work and ask them to share theirs and then critique it, because that's going to get you more mileage than anything when you're trying to get your feet wet.
And that is something I am so grateful for. I never thought I'd have the opportunity to be talking with all you guys and doing that stuff, but I thought it was going to be just me on my own and hoping. The power of collaboration is in the community is like, I can't even put into words how incredible it is.
I've had Sybil look at some of my work before, and all of his notes were really, really, really helpful. And I've worked with all of you on different things before. Billy Bob, he doesn't have really a channel of his own or anything that I know of that he works on, but Billy Bob pushes a lot of different projects. He's the reason he's the reason this whole thing came about right here. Because I had this idea, but I hadn't reached out to anyone. I hadn't arranged anything. And so, yeah, like even someone like Billy Bob is really pushing things. King Bob, he helps people with some of their projects behind the scenes. He helped me help me pick every part of my computer setup except for my really crappy second monitor. Wrangler, you have your book. You've been here pretty much since the beginning. It's been a good time.
And because of King Bob, my second book is worth something. He helped me polish that something fierce.
Ooh, Bob, were you polishing that book for him with both hands?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta polish the turd, man.
With both hands.
Saying your book is a turd.
I can give Billy a shout out too, though. Like, he's read a couple of my things, and the feedback and input I get is always helpful.
Nice. All right, so real quick, before we get into anything really spoilery, we're going to go through each of us individually. I'll edit this down later so I can make it a little faster, easier to watch for people as well. Cut out all my bad jokes. But we'll go through one by one, just give a quick, basic, spoiler-free impression of the book. While we like a couple of good points, a couple of like just our overall impression, and then we'll go into more spoiler-specific things. So we'll start off with we'll go reverse order. Wrangler, basic impressions of the book. Go.
It was just a straight up fun adventure. A lot of action. It was not slow, not at all. There were points where it slowed down and let you breathe a little, but it did not. The pace didn't have a true drop off anywhere.
No, he had good pacing throughout. That's one good thing I'll say. Yeah, no, for sure.
And this was actually like the way it was written. It seems like this is an introductory, not just to the characters, but to a potential world. I don't know that he's planning on building it out, but he's got something set up here that I think he can do a lot with, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. I finished the book just this morning, or after, right before noon. I finished it, and so I've just been kind of letting it bake in and sink in throughout the day, thinking about it here and there, and
let him marinate a little bit.
Yeah, and then I start thinking about, oh, what could they do if they did this or that, and that's the fun part. Is after you read the book, it sinks in. You start to
think
it
about
kind
it
of
more.
solidifies sort of after you've read it a little bit. Or for me anyway, I enjoy the book after I've read it because it sets in. The ideas start to things start to pop up bit by bit. Oh, I didn't think of this before. Now it makes sense, and
well, that's why these kind of discussions are so important, because essentially on our own, we'll think of a lot of things about a book or a comic we read and go back later like, oh, wow, look at that. But Evelyn and Music and I discovered on our video about the Mythicals Volume 1, we did not think we would have that much to talk about with just a quick little issue of a comic. But the longer we talked, the more things we noticed and the more things we pointed out. And I think discussions like these help make people better readers and better enjoyers of stories. And that's
in some ways better thinkers.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Because you end up, I'll use Star Trek as the classic example of when they explore an issue, they explore from multiple sides, and you just watched an entertaining episode, but then those ideas, both sides kind of sink in, and you start contemplating those things yourself and coming to your own determination.
Okay, Sybil, basic impressions of the overall story, how it made you feel, all the things you did with it.
My first impression, how they say you don't eat a meal from the very beginning with your mouth. The first thing that notices the food you're being served is your eyes and your nose, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, when I haven't held it in my hand yet, but I've seen Neutron Bohr's amazing art and I've read it twice for the editing process. So for me, what it kind of did was, at the very beginning, it kind of harkened back to that, not necessarily pulp fantasy of the mid to late 90s, but the epic phone book fantasy kind of stuff. If you look at the artwork on the cover, it's kind of got the same feel. If you read through the book itself, it's got a lot of the same tropes, but instead of sitting there for 1,200 pages to get from beginning to end of the story, you've got something that's about 50,000 words. It's digestible and it's coherent from start to finish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very manageable. It doesn't bounce around to all these different, don't get me wrong, I enjoy that about epic fantasy, how you'll have thousands of named characters and all these detailed POVs from many different sources. But in this kind of story, it has the same feel, but it's a very manageable size.
Yeah, he kind of takes a bit of that aesthetic and uses the aesthetic without all the trappings that come with it, because you and I have talked about it before. I absolutely adore those expansive fantasy worlds, but you have a lot more time for that stuff when you're 20 than you do when you're 40 and you got kids to look after and all this other stuff. 100%. So when you have to be kind of economic with your time, if you can kind of take that same feeling but get it in a way more manageable package, then yeah, I'm all for it. I would actually compare it to something like, let's say, The Long Moonlight, which is another indie work that was done by somebody. And-
Razor Fist.
Yeah, I love that book, but it makes me laugh because I seem to like it a lot more than a bunch of other people do, despite the fact that I have some of the same criticisms for that book that I would have for, Steel and Stormbright, which basically boils down to character work. And it's something that Otter worked really hard on when he got advice from me and Bob Sack and everybody else. So, yeah, it's this weird, it's this kind of byplay where the narrative itself is tight, it's efficient, it gives you a solid through line to follow from the beginning to the end. You start off with the book and you're like, here's the brothers, here's all the terrible shit that's been happening to them, here's how they're going to overcome it. And then by the time you're at the end of the book, you're like, you know what, we took some bumps and bruises along the way, but it's time to step out into the wider world.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think both of those stories are actually good examples of why people need to buy more indie as well. It's not like we've all talked about. We have our criticisms of both of Razor Fist books and even of this book, this wonderful book. But it's not about the story being perfect. It's not about the book being perfect. It's about one of the biggest selling points of what this kind of what's happening in this movement or this age, so to say, is people being able to have a vision and complete it without the interference of a mile's worth of editors and all these people telling you what you can and can't do in your story. These stories are authentic. That's one of the biggest selling points of these kind of stories. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
If I could make a minor diversion
Yeah, go for it.
mention another author that I like for the exact same reasons you mentioned. I've read through some of the Star Shatter stuff. Black Knight is a huge, like a celebrity in our space, pretty much as far as I'm concerned, and well-deserved.
He's a writing legend for sure. He writes more than anyone I know personally.
But the thing about it is, like, the guy's writing the books in his third language. Some of the prose is rough, and you're like, you know what? It's indie, and this story has more heart than anything coming out of the mainstream, and I don't care that it's got some rough edges. And it's the same thing with Steel and Stormbright. I don't care if it's got some rough edges. It's something that came from the heart, and Otter didn't have to go through the red tape and the trad pub bullshit to get it out to us.
Yep, it's authentically his vision, and plus he had, like, it's his first book. How many first books in the mainstream have interior illustrations? How many books in the mainstream have interior illustrations? That's goated, bro.
That kid that wrote Aragorn or whatever it was.
Oh, Paulini?
Like,
yeah.
He was 16 when he got his first book published, and the only reason anybody even knew it existed is because his parents were publishers and he was already in. He didn't have to earn any of that shit. Otter did, and I think he earned it.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely. Plus, look at that. That's golden. That's like, I mean, it's about 3 steps away from being a furry fantasy kind of image, but it's right there.
The Brugmar.
It's his ideal,
partner.
Come on, Kahuna, be my tag team partner. We're gonna kick that thing's butt.
Okay. So you going high or you going low?
Oh, I'm putting my redneck boot right through its jaw.
I was gonna say I'm pretty strong. I could probably throw you at its neck or something, but alas. All right, so that was Sybil's thoughts. Billy Bobsack, outside of athletic tits, what other impressions do you have from the story?
I mean, it's a fun fucking pulpy story with, of course, some phone book fantasy elements in it. It's also got really fun characters. The 2 main characters I like. There's one human, since this is non-spoiler. There's a human character I like as well. He's a small character. Want to see him later on. It's got a very fun villain. With Circe.
Saying it wrong, you son of a...
It's right. But,
Yeah, absolutely,
my
man.
impression on it.
King Bob! How does the story make you feel sexually? Sorry.
Well, since there's no athletic ticks, I have a problem, but still.
They didn't look very athletic to me. They looked very
no.
Very bouncy. That's the word. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely meets our standards. Got the perfect lung capacity.
Tremendous airbags.
Exactly.
Power ups.
I broke it down a little bit on the as simplistic as I can get because that's kind of how I think.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a good book, basically, it's got to have relatable characters. This does. It's got to have an interesting yet understandable story. This does. It's got to have an ending that lets you feel complete, which this does. And if it's going to be something that you might want to add on to, it's got to have something that makes you question, where did the Star Race come from? What's their origin story? That kind of stuff. Like, how does that magic work? Things like that when you would want to see more exploration in like maybe the second book or the third book, however far he wants to go.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, this book has everything that it needs to be a good story.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. And this book did a great job for me of kind of giving you enough to give you a taste, but not spending so long that you grow tired of any one place. Maybe
Well,
that's,
you telling me you didn't want about 200 pages worth of how in detail of how every magic system works, and
I really need to know the exact power levels of all the Starlights, actually. Without that, I don't know how I can manage a story like this in my mind.
So did like Robert Jordan enter the chat from the grave or what?
Actually, no, he came to describe how they're all dressed in great detail. All the love to Robert Jordan, but especially
Absolutely.
as the man has passed. But you got anyone who's read him knows. Anyway. So
Nothing wrong with having criticisms. Nobody's
absolutely not, especially when the guy's a legend. So, for me, Steel and Stormbright, The Curse of the Star Wraiths. It was a very fun, pulpy story from beginning to end. And it wasn't that every single scene was riveting and like tie you to your seat and force you to read it like a Clockwork Orange or anything, but some of the, how do I explain? It had a really good flow to the story. I enjoyed the main characters, and there were some of the scenes in it were very, very iconic to me. And for me, honestly, that's enough to make a story good. It's enough to bring me back to a story. And I think this is a very decent blend of epic fantasy and a pulpy style of storytelling. Anyway, that's my basic impressions. So, this is your final warning. This is the spoiler section, and we go in dry. So prepare yourselves.
You probably shouldn't read my review of Clockwork Orange then.
Oh, shit. Yeah, biggest points of praise with the story.
It was easy to keep reading.
Yeah. It was it? Did it feel like it would left you on a cliffhanger, or was it just a compelling, good story?
Oh no, it continued to flow pretty well, and it's like every time I picked up, even when I just picked up to read a couple pages, I still felt like I got somewhere.
Yeah. It's like we've mentioned. It's a very efficient story. It's a very pulp style kind of maneuvering there, which is it's not going to take 500 pages to explain to you why the dragon tattoo on the nude twins makes the emerald glow red.
The tone itself, it was kind of, this is probably an odd comparison. The tone kind of reminded me of Predator. Constantly being on the move, knowing something could come out at any moment.
Yeah, like there were moments where they stopped, but I could feel that. That's not a comparison I expected to hear during this little recording here, but
yeah. Well, I mean, on their journey aspect, when they were going to, what was the name of the place where they were going after the obel staff?
Is that what you called it?
The obel staff, the obel.
Well, Billy Bob, how is it pronounced? Billy, actually, never mind. You're not going to help.
Pronunciation guide.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Wrangler, well, if there was I know this is tough because it's someone we know but it's what we're here for. Now that you've named something you like, something you really, a strong point to the story, something you really enjoyed, I need you to name some sort of criticism. It could be if you have nothing big, it can be something very nitpicky even. So
well, as I said, I just finished it, and so I mean, I could have like missed a few things along the way and just misunderstood, but like in the battle where Steel is launching arrows from the wall, then he's down in the field battling with Karst. Now, maybe I just missed it, but I'm like, when did he come down off the wall and get to the field? All of a sudden, he's there.
No, he's not on the field, so she busts through the fucking gate. And then
there's a little bit of skipped action there, but it kind of skips to as a pulp story kind of does. It doesn't go over every detail of a battle. It kind of just gives you highlights throughout.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I was a little hesitant to mention that because I figured something just didn't sink in. You ever physically read a paragraph and you're like, I have no idea what the hell I just read.
If I'm really tired, sometimes I'll do that. Yeah.
No, I did that on one of my critiques of his because I referred to one of them as the thief. And I said, who the frick is the thief? I don't know who the hell you're talking about.
You know, the thief who doesn't steal a single solitary thing throughout the entire story?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I told him the thief like last chapter, man. What are you doing?
The reason I never brought it up, because I thought he was calling him the thief because he was referring to him like robbing the one Ilgarathian slave dude. Then he got stuck with the name thief or some shit.
Well,
that was mostly
him.
retrieval too. So like,
yeah, but he also stole his shit as well.
That's
like,
true. Okay, so he does steal something one time.
Yes, I still agree with y'all's like criticism on that. You know, because it is like, well, he's not like constantly stealing or anything, and he doesn't really have like a thief background.
Well, so here's the thing: you have the two brothers, Dos brothers, and the younger one. He becomes his nickname becomes Stormbright, and he's occasionally called by his real name, Stormbright, his kind of main moniker. And then the magician or the wizard or sorcerer? I'm trying to remember what do they call
Which one?
him?
The Sciomancer, the Astromancer, or the Shaman?
He's talking about Stormbright.
I'm talking about Stormbright. What they call him, like a name, like the magician or something like that. But they refer
sorcerer.
The sorcerer, yeah. They call him the sorcerer throughout the story, and that makes sense. He talked to a giant thunder god who didn't kick his ass or kill him and just gave him powers and left him be. And he has magical powers that he uses throughout the story. He is called the magician sometimes. It makes sense. And referred to as. Whereas with Steel, he is called Steel, his regular name, and then also called the Thief. Now, I will say he is rather rogue-like in his demeanor. He has a roguish kind of tendency in demeanor. But outside of the one scene that Billy Bobsack just mentioned, I don't think he stole anything the rest of the story.
Oh, he doesn't.
I just kind of considered him to be
the Queen's Heart count?
Well, I was kind of using Skyrim logic, right?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't actually steal, but he's the character that you can very readily identify as the guy that has a high dex stat. So he's just kind of the rogue.
That's his skill set, not his moral compass.
For me, it came down to really certain scenes really sold this story for me. The scene where Stormbright gets his powers, where he meets the god Cathantu, I think, or is that right?
Calamtu?
Calamtu.
Yeah, Calamtu.
Clam2. Yeah, I got it. No. I really enjoyed that scene. I loved the scene where Stormbright is getting the staff from the god, so to say, or the spirit.
Are you talking about the
trial?
Yeah, but
now,
he was
what did I say wrong? I thought his name was Obel or Obel. I'm not sure which.
It's
in the back.
It's Obel.
I think she was a.
I can't remember. What was she? She was like a goddess of something. That got
she was a spirit trapped within.
Hold up, but she was actually.
Wasn't she like the god of death or something?
She's like supposed to be like a sphinx. Where she's like,
Ubal staff. But yeah, no, the scene where he's getting the Ubal staff, and then the scene where General Karst is doing her form of dark worship to the goddess.
So Christian, I think it was me and Sybil. I don't know if Black Knight or Gino were on this. But we were the ones like really making him like looted up a bit more.
In that, I think in that, like, I don't think it serves a good purpose in most stories. In that scene, I think it really added to the dark. It really added to the perverted, dark aspect of her character and their whole kind of religious practice pretty substantially.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just that, but it's like it's relatable because when you think about all the bullshit we're dealing with now and these fucking perverts holding office and shit, like Karst would be that degenerate, right?
Oh yeah, those poor. Well, at the end, spoiler by the way, the poor servant girl who survived that experience. Yeah, can't have a great.
Did one of them survive? I think both of them died.
No, one of them died and one of them survived.
Okay.
Yeah, when she stabbed that servant girl, I was like, that was the part where I'm like, yeah, I just hate this bitch now.
Also, I'm gonna give her.
I love her. What are you talking about?
She's a great character, a terrible person. A great character, terrible.
Exactly.
I'm gonna give a shout out to the scene where Stormbright's chasing the fucking dickhead Ilgarathian sorcerer through like
through the bats and the bat demons and the star wraiths in the sky. Yeah, that's a very good scene. It's a very, very good aerial kind of combat scene. He wrote that combat really, really well.
But what I don't understand, were they kind of flying literally through the star wraiths in that moment? Where like
they were there were so many star wraiths in a close proximity, Wrangler, that it looked like a sea of stars at certain moments.
Yeah, because I was wondering why the Sciomancer wasn't getting Metroided.
I think they weren't. There was like pockets they were flying through during the battle.
Yeah, yeah, they were running into bats and getting effed up the whole time. Yeah,
I'd say it's two heads of the same coin. The thing I like the most is this is coming from the perspective of a guy that edits a lot of fantasy and a lot of other shit.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the things I edit have that I want to call it the current year feel, where you can't have a fantasy setting where the main character is a straight dude that just wants to do straight dude things and have the traditional like a male hero role, right? And one of the things I like
straight? He rejected a very nude version of Karst coming after him.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's gay for that. I think he just knows not to stick your dick in crazy. But the whole point of it is
that's wisdom beyond his years. He was blessed by Clam2 in more than one way.
Well, he would have failed the test if he actually did go through with it.
Also, can we be thankful that Clam2 wasn't like Zeus, because they definitely would have fucked.
Hold up.
Very true.
Consent optional.
How do we know that Clam2 didn't Bill Cosby? Stormbright.
He doesn't remember it very well.
Yeah, he passes out.
He's like, I gotta give him some of my special barbecue sauce.
All right, Cosby. Anyway, the highest point of praise I would give it is that not only do we have one traditionally stoic masculine male character, you get two. You get the older brother who's wiser a bit. He is projected to be more like in tune with the path of magic. And then you get the younger brother that's going to be the warrior one day, even if, like, yeah, you call him a thief. That dude was slitting motherfuckers up. He's fine. He can handle himself.
Actually, Sybil reversed that. The younger one is the, Stormbright's the younger one.
All right, you read the book more recently than me. But yes, correct. But all the same, you can't really pick up any modern fantasy off the shelf at Barnes & Noble and expect to see a male hero. It's all going to be, oh, I'm a girl and I hate my dad. I like girls and yada, yada, yada. So I enjoyed that the most.
Probably with a side shave. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But it's my same criticism too. Character work is hard. It's what I specialize in, and I think it's still the hardest thing that I fucking do. So there were a lot of areas for improvement in terms of just general character relatability, distinguishing voices, and so on and so forth. But it's also the thing where it's like we talked about before. It's his first book, and the dude shows a lot of potential. So it's just going to take some time and some effort, and he will reach that point where he can make those character voices more distinct, where the characters themselves will feel not just distinct from one another, but anchored to the narrative in a way that I didn't feel they weren't at this point. But like I said, it's a byproduct of you working your ass off, but still being somewhat inexperienced at the same time.
And not every writer will have the same strengths.
Well,
truth be
also
told.
remember, this is his first book as well, so.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, one
but
thing that I would-
it is a legitimate criticism, and we're going to take all of that into account. This is a
Well, it's not just that. It's you mentioned that every writer is going to have their strengths. I think that Otter has strengths that I just simply don't, especially when it comes to pacing a story and compacting a narrative in such a way. Because, like, we talked about it, he basically went for the phone book fantasy feel, but he managed to get that same essence through without having to spend 1,200 pages doing it, right?
Right.
yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. Like, it's hard to make a character. It's hard to get close to a character with a low page count, especially when it's a pulpy kind of story where it's not first person. We're not getting deep into the head of any one character in this story. It is hard to balance all that. And especially, honestly, telling a story about brothers where they're both main characters, it's a hard thing to do. And like you mentioned, keeping character voices distinct and making them all very individual and very different from one another. And not just from one another, but also important in this. It's a very tricky thing to do. Very few stories are able to handle close family members in close proximity during the story very well.
It's a balancing act, but at the same time, what I appreciated about this book is that in choosing, instead of having one mainline protagonist, but having two as brothers, he presents this opportunity for the main narrators of the story to have something at stake. Like, if your main character is in danger, it's not just him that's in danger. It's his familial bond that's being jeopardized. It's the person he's supposed to be looking out for since he was a kid that's in danger now. And that actually brought a lot of weight to the scenes for me.
Well, it did, because that at any moment, the danger that they're facing is you're not just fearing for them. You're fearing for the brother of whoever perspective we're kind of seeing something from.
And if either one of the brothers, if either one of the brothers bit it, the other one would be toast.
I want to jump in right there because that was actually what I would say was my favorite part about this book, especially when you compare it to Marvel Comics and that kind of crap. Otter was not afraid to kill people.
No,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
not.
I love a book where there's consequences to your decisions and your actions. So many times now you just see somebody do something stupid and you're like, you should be dead. That was the stupidest decision you could have made. And just like you're saying, I don't actually think one of these brothers is untouchable. One of them could die. I could feel Otter doing that. It's possible. And because that risk is there, that just makes the book so much better.
I'll straight up. One thing that caught me off guard with this book, I'm pretty good at anticipating story beats. I've absorbed enough stories and used to work on stories a lot when I was younger. I'm writing them, not quite there yet. But as far as absorbing stories, I'm pretty good at anticipating what will happen next. I did not expect the dad to survive. I thought he was going to die, very early on in the story. And I was wrong. Spoilers, but yeah, I was wrong. And I also kind of thought he'd show up in a kind of really in a big way at the end of the story, since he didn't die also, but also again caught me off guard a bit.
I was bummed to see what's his name, Trilgar.
Yeah, the Ilgarathian slave. I didn't expect him to fucking bite the bullet during.
Oh, that's
least not
exactly
that
what I was going to
quickly.
say, dude. I thought that dude was going to have a major role in the story, and then it's like, oh, we're going to fight the Brugwar. Oh, this dude's a fucking red stain on the fucking floor of the arena.
And it's what should have happened to Loki in the first Avengers when Hulk grabbed him.
Absolutely.
It's like watching,
But I like that, though.
What was that movie? Deep Blue Sea? Is that what it's called? When you're like,
We are
it's
going to
Samuel
go
L.
down there and kill those motherfuckers. Ah! Yeah, there was a distinct lack of athletic tits and otters in this story. 0 out of 10. Don't recommend to anyone.
I'll actually agree with Wranglers for my critique, though. There were a couple of times when I had to reread the battle scenes because it didn't quite make sense the way that he worded it. So I had to redo it in my mind like 3 or 4 times until I'm like, oh, I think I understand what he's trying to say. Okay, it makes sense now.
And that kind of brings up another idea. It's partial criticism, partial praise. Like, there's a couple of areas in regards to this book where it's going to be like that for me. It's like, on one hand, I kind of wanted him to dive deeper on some things because it did feel very epic fantasy the way he was writing it sometimes. But then also, on the other hand, it was short and punchy and very, very pulp-like, which I appreciate.
Well, I do believe he referred to it as an epic pulp.
Yeah. I do think he needs to lean a bit more one direction or the other, in my opinion, moving forward. I do love this book, but I think either making it a little more pulpy, a little more lean that direction, or go into the detail a little bit more in the next book.
So
That is more subjective. That comes down to a bit of personal taste, but having read pretty substantially in both genres, I do think that would be a wise move.
So
Let me ask you this, Kahuna.
Hold on, guys. 1 second. We have a beautiful, allegedly female pony joining us here. Yes, it was going to be much longer, possibly like more like a 2.5 times longer. And for epic fantasy, that would be about right, honestly. I think he did a decent job turning it into pulp from there. I think he could have done a little bit more to make it a bit more pulpy. And yeah. Sybil, you had something you wanted to mention earlier too?
Yeah, but I'm drunk and I don't remember, so go ahead.
So Manji, since you're kind of late to the party here, what were your basic impressions of the book? Like, and we're already into spoilers at this point in the video, so basic impressions of the book, things you liked, anything maybe you didn't like. We'll just hear your take real quick. No pressure.
I have a confession.
Yes.
I haven't finished. I just came to hang.
Maji, how far did you get?
You don't want to know. I just came to say hi.
Maji, you will be spoiled by some of the things we discussed. Fine. Okay, just check.
I was gonna read it. I just been lost in stuff.
Lost in the sauce of the holiday season. Ho,
yes,
ho, ho.
Yes. Sorry, I hope I didn't crash the party.
No, you're completely fine. Yeah, you've been busy, and I'm happy you're able to hang out. Now, how do you guys feel about the prose specifically? How was his language use? How do you feel about his language use, the way his sentences flowed, and the way like all grammar rules and such as well?
As one of the close readers, it's one of those things where it's the first book and you can tell, but the only real complaint I had were just things that every author does, where you kind of settle into a rhythm and you might end up habitually using certain turns of phrase over and over again without realizing it, kind of thing.
Well, like we do in regular conversation as well. People
exactly.
Yeah, like I say alas quite a lot. My dad was kind enough to watch my videos and point that out over and over again. No, I can feel that. There were a couple things I noticed in regards to like repetition of kind of sounds and basic phrases, but it wasn't enough to bother me. It was just a small thing I noticed. For me, it was like I liked some of the language he used. I like the fact that he used cubits. I liked some of the older words that he used as well, even though one of them I didn't know was a real word, and I thought it was the spelling mistake. Oops.
Couple times I meant to write a word down as I was reading so I could look it up later, and I didn't, and now I can't remember what they were.
Yeah. No, there was one, and I did ask him about it, and he did confirm what it meant for me, because I was like, I don't think it's a weird spelling mistake. I don't think that's right, but I do think, yeah, as he improves his writing, as he becomes more veteran at it, I'm sure he'll kind of change, like he'll find a good rhythm for the sentence structure, like paragraph size and certain lines of that nature. I thought it was very more than adequate for his first book. And
it all comes with critique, man.
Oh, 100%. I would like to see some of the language didn't feel very consistent. Like it does, like, when, maybe I'll use this as an example, when he was referring to different characters, especially Steel and Stormbright, sometimes they would be referred to by their original names, like, what was it, Zolan and Setharas. Yeah, Setharas. And sometimes they'd be referred to by their moniker kind of names they made up when they were in prison, Steel and Stormbright. And then they'd also be referred to as the magician or the sorcerer or the thief. And that's just a small example, but some language consistency might have done him some good in some of the referencing.
That's not entirely a bad thing, depending on personal taste, because...
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, this may just be a personal thing for me.
I tend to loop through, like, if I have a few different ways I could refer to someone, and I establish that on purpose, because he said, she said, he, her, over and over in a sentence gets old, and when you're, like, you have to refer back between two people, you try not to repeat words or names in a single sentence or a paragraph.
Their names. So
being able to cycle through different ways to refer to a single character can help break up the monotony, but overdone, it can get obnoxious.
Yeah. Maji, you had something to say?
Well, kind of going with what Wrangler says, it drives me nuts when you're reading and it's like, it says the name over and over and over and over, and you're like, just refer to him as something else for a second. I know what his name is.
Especially when it's like a long... Can you imagine if Steel had gone by Setharas the entire story?
So I honestly don't mind. Like, I've read enough to know what you guys are talking about. I honestly don't mind having the different descriptors, but it's a nice break. Then, say, hey, the Kahuna did this. The Kahuna.
Whoa, you're sounding very local there, Maji. The Kahuna.
The Kahuna. But
hey guys, what you doing down there by the pier? That was all English, by the way.
Yeah, what you doing down by the pier?
There you go.
But no,
you are an islander.
I do like the fact that he does have different descriptions. I know some people don't like that, but it's just kind of a nice breakaway from a second, so then that way you're not reading every other line is their name.
I do agree with that. I'm not. My criticism isn't that there are multiple names that people are called. My criticism is maybe that it wasn't done as smoothly as it could have been done. It felt slightly clunky sometimes in the way he would reference different things with different names. It wasn't just them, but that was the biggest one I could remember. It was just more the way he references certain objects could be cleaned up a little bit. But with all that being said, the prose was very pleasing to read. It wasn't like reading it wasn't too purpley, but it wasn't afraid to be descriptive either. It was short and punchy, just like a pulp should be, and I thought that was a great aspect of the book.
Like I said earlier, it was easy to read.
Now, favorite characters or least favorite characters. This can be from a writing perspective, just a reading perspective, or whatever else. What were you guys' standouts, both good and bad?
Okay, I like Thirst, and I like
Karst, damn it.
Thirst.
This is my damn video. I will use AI to correct your voice, son.
Thirst.
The fresh maker.
You sound so thirsty.
Well, I like Stars because I actually do like her as a villain. I think she's just enough of a.
No, she's easy to get behind as a character, even from her POV.
Yeah,
she's ambitious.
Her, never in front.
She's very self-interested, yet has a certain point where she would even put that aside for the good of her nation.
Well, for the good of her belief. And that was a very interesting aspect of
her nation is run by the belief, but it's such a weird dichotomy of indulgence and control.
Well, remember, her people are literally her god. She can literally see her god.
Yeah, have a conversation with her and the whole thing. And also the fact that her god doesn't uphold virtues that, say, you and I do, but obviously her virtues are something closer to lust and depravity and things of things of that nature. It even goes into that a little bit in the story.
They're
And
almost
so,
like a
yeah.
weird lawful evil.
Yeah, actually, yeah, very much like that.
Well,
It's
they're
like the
definitely-
Melnibonéans. It's like if you read an Elric story, Elric, like everybody's disappointed in Elric the king or the emperor because he doesn't act very Melnibonéan. He doesn't act selfish and lustful, and he doesn't have the same bloodlust they all do. And so it's very much like that. It very much reminded me of that. But anyway, Billy Bob, I was going to interrupt you over and over again. What do you have to say, son?
You also got to remember she's like a zealot as well, because how their culture is and everything with the depravity and shit. And then I'm also going to throw in Aaron. What the fuck was his name?
Adrian!
Y'all remember his name? The
Astromancer?
yeah, the dude at the beginning, the wizard human.
It wasn't Adrian. I have
It
the
was
book. I'm
it was
gonna
two
look it up.
syllables.
Yeah, it starts with an A. I know that for sure.
Not
Adas.
Ada.
Did you say
Adis?
Adris?
Aedes. I'll look it up in the back. Hold on.
Adis. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Aid-ass.
Very subtle, Otter. Very subtle. I liked him. He was he wasn't
Oh,
there.
Aedus is how it's
Yeah.
pronounced. My bad.
Yeah.
Because he was aiding us.
Very clever. Very
He
clever.
wasn't there for long, but I enjoyed his character.
No, I liked him a lot. Someone who's kind of forced into this position of power amongst his servitude. It's a truthful position if you look at any kind of history. Anytime one people is kind of taken over by another people, they will uplift certain people within that kind of downtrodden nation in order to help them, conquer and control.
Right.
And
makes
beneath
sense.
the arena, he comes popping out of the shadows like the Cancer Man in X-Files.
Oh yeah.
And then my least favorite would be the dickhead Ilgarathian sorcerer. You know what I'm talking about, I think.
I do.
Sciomancer, I can't remember his name though.
Is it Sio or Scott? Yeah, I'd say Sio.
Sciomancer.
Yeah.
Was he's the one who summons like the demon bats and shit.
Yeah.
I love that he was like, that's easy. Watch the fuck. It's all out of control. Everything's gone wrong.
Then he tries to go, join me. It's stealing Stormbright on the ship.
And I was like, there's no shot, bro. You know this won't work, right?
He was just a total douchebag all around.
Yeah.
he was also incredibly incompetent.
Yeah, he like summoned the demons the first time, and then they kill half and half, like his
Yeah.
soldiers to the enemy's
Like, I've been communing with them. I know they're good. And then they just start attacking everybody. It's like, but they
I can't
said
believe I'll never
demons
financially
like it,
recover from this.
no.
This wasn't part of the calculations.
And then doesn't he get shot by an arrow or some shit? And that's when Stormbright's going to kill him later on.
I
Well,
don't think so.
Did he
Does
get
anyone
pulled?
I
remember how
don't
he got?
know that he got
Got
tagged with
javelin
an
or
arrow.
Well, he got
What was that, Bob?
Stormbright
javelin.
did, but
Yeah, he threw a javelin at him,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
then what happened after that? Yeah,
I think
actually think
Stormbright
he's-
cooked him, but I can't remember.
no, he beheaded him.
yeah, he beheaded him. He's kind of the perfect example, though, of what I'm talking about when you compare it to nowadays writing. Like, you wouldn't see that. Some idiot that's in. We all know they exist, but you're not going to see it on TV. They're not going to do that. Otter has no problem. Sure, we know these people are there. They're going to say, "Oh yeah, I can do that. That's not a problem," and then they just kill half their own people.
Yeah.
Whoops.
That dude is dangerous levels of midwit. He has capabilities, but can't use them right.
Yeah, yeah. It's just overconfidence and under capable in certain ways.
Sounds like some people we know.
Yeah, most of the government.
The entirety of the USA. I'm editing this bitch. I'll cut that out. Anyway. Oh yeah, fuck it. It's a recording. I say whatever I want. Fuck y'all. I'm out. So as far as characters go, I'll talk about the main two, our two brother characters. as a start. I have a brother, little shithead. No matter where, wonder where he is now, but I don't know. I'd say a good half, maybe 5/8 of the time, 3/4 of the time, they felt like real brothers. They felt like kind of the bickering but loyal kind of brothers you would expect. And they grew closer through their confinement in prison. That was all good. There were some moments where it didn't feel like brotherly, they didn't feel like brothers to me in some ways. Like there's one scene in particular I remember they're talking and they just sound very polite to one another and very formal. I'm like, no brothers would ever talk this way. Not even if they were a king and the king's younger brother would they talk like this.
It might depend on who's overhearing the conversation.
No, I'm just thinking back to when my brothers are always talking to each other. They're either boasting each other up or calling each other assholes.
Come here, you little shithead.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, I was such a nice brother to my brother. I should have kicked his ass 7 ways to Sunday every fucking day. But that wasn't what I was about. I was always bigger than him.
All I know is, like, one time for my mom's birthday, I managed to wrangle up all my siblings together for family photos that she didn't know we took. And her favorite picture is my one brother trying to strangle my other brother that the photographer just happened to catch right before all hell broke loose. So they're both smiling as the other one's grabbing him, and Bob's like, "There's my boys."
Maji,
This is an honest picture. Yeah.
Maji, you want to know what my cousin did on the Christmas photos? She printed it out on a mug and a fucking mat and didn't realize I was flipping off the fucking camera during the entire time.
Oh.
Oops.
That's funny.
But Sybil, favorite characters?
Yeah. Or least favorite.
Or did you put a least favorite for you, Christian?
That's hard. I didn't hate any character. I thought they all, like, in the sense, I thought they all belonged in the story. They all had a place. Maybe the other slaves who didn't do so well in the Colosseum. I do feel like either more or less could have been done with them, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll also say kind of the what the fuck was their name? The
Illyrians?
Yeah, I do agree with when we were talking with Otter and stuff that their names are a little too similar.
Oh yeah, that is one thing about Otter's book. So you have the bad guys who are bronze-skinned people who worship the goddess General Karst worships and evil and lust and all that stuff, and they are the Ilgrathians. But then the gray-skinned good guys that are opposing them, so to say, and once ruled the world, are the Islyrians. And those names are pretty fucking similar for people who have any problem with their words, or someone who's new to fantasy whatsoever.
Poor Maji.
Oddly enough, I hadn't even noticed that.
Oh, yeah, no, that like, if you're a veteran reader or a big time fantasy guy, it's not a big thing to keep track of. But as I was reading, I did think about it. I'm like, if I was someone who had struggled with that, like Maji-chan has some dyslexic stuff she deals with sometimes, that could be a little confusing. Yeah, like, not a big deal, but just a small consideration. Like, that's the thing too. Like, we're not, like, people in this kind of space aren't afraid of. They want to use good names. Well, and some, but at the same time, it's like, how considerate are you going to be to your readers? It's like, if the name is good, I'd rather have a good name than a bad name that's different. So that's my take on it.
See, this is why I'm already preparing Otter for people not saying the names he wants people to say. You know.
Because even you fucking don't?
By you saying it wrong over and over again?
Yes. Well, it's not wrong. It's right. It's sirs. Okay.
General Karen.
I like that.
She
Can we
stuck her
use that
nose
from
where
now
it
on?
didn't belong.
King Bob, did you tell us what your favorite and least favorite was? Oh, we
Oh,
lost
not
him.
yet. I want to call her Captain Karen from now on. That's brilliant to me. Or General Karen.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Exactly what she is. Frick. But
All right, I'm going to step away for just a second. You guys hold down the fort. I will edit this later, so swear as much as you like.
fair enough.
Fuckity, fuck.
But she's
Fuck!
definitely my favorite
Sorry.
character for sure. I like a good antagonist. You got to have a good antagonist to have a good story.
I
But-
like the Queen. What'd you think of her?
You mean the princess?
No, the queen. He's talking about the queen that was holding the fort down at the.
Yeah, but she's not actually a queen. She's still a princess.
They referred to her as queen. I know her father came,
she
or
called her
grandfather came back into it, but she was still called queen.
Did they call her
But-
queen? I thought they were constantly calling her princess.
No, I remember they're calling her
Technically.
queen. But regardless, she's the leader. Whatever you want to call her, it's a semantic argument, really. But I would say that her father, the king, is somebody I would actually want to know a lot more about. I found him to be a very interesting character. Would love to know more about his backstory, like how did he fall specifically, because he kind of goes into it, but it's a little bit vague. Like what choices led to that, him becoming a Star Wraith, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm very interested in the Star Wraith thing. I want to know more about their magic. Oh yeah, we got so many
purpose.
King
questions we want
Talamor,
answers.
that's his name.
What's that?
King
King
Talamor.
Talamor.
Telenor. Okay.
Okay, Katala, she is the queen of.
Yeah. Now he was her what? Great grandfather.
That sounds right. I know it's what's down the line.
I think he's supposed to be just her grandfather. I don't even think it's that far back.
Was it only grandfather? I thought it was great grandfather too. It might just be grandfather though.
Yeah, you want?
You
Say,
might
I don't
be
have
able
the
to-
book. He
Trying
just
to go
barely
off
sent
of
my book, so I'm not going to get it till like after New Year's.
Yeah. Now this is spoiler reminder, but what did you think of what was her name? Katala?
Yeah, Katala.
She pissed
What did
me
you
off.
think of her metamorphosis?
Yeah, she pissed me off.
Oh, you mean when she turns into a Star Wraith at the end and gets killed?
Yeah.
How does
Like,
she
why
piss you
killing
off?
the redhead,
exactly?
man? Why are you killing the redhead? Dang it!
Was she a redhead?
Yeah, she was a redhead.
Make redheads great again.
They always kill the redhead. It pisses me off.
No, Bob. They turn them black.
I didn't remember she was a redhead.
I
I
swear
don't
that was.
remember that either. I thought she had dark.
Yeah, no,
brown
she's one of the
hair.
gray-skinned Islyrians, unless
Yeah,
I'm
I thought they all
mistaken.
had dark hair.
I swear it said something about her being a redhead.
don't
I think
she was a
that-
redhead.
Are you projecting, Mr. Bob?
I might
Bab.
be projecting. I did read this like 3 months ago. How long ago?
That's
What is
fair,
it?
that's
We ended
fair.
this?
Yeah, no, I did. I will be honest. I did forget at one point which group of the Yograthians or the Islyrians. I did forget which ones were gray skinned for just a moment. I like, no. I'm sure I have it right. I got it right.
Yeah, the Islarians are grayish, and the
Yograthians.
Elgrathians are more of a bronzed.
Also, that's a kind of question I had too, because he's talked about it on on voice chat, and we've talked about it privately and such. His impression is that the Islyrians were not always were pretty bad when they were in charge.
Well, yeah, the hinting in the story is like, oh yeah, they had this like fucking vast empire that just squashed everyone, and they got too
Too
like-
proud for their britches. Yeah.
yeah, and it like backfired on them. That's what caused like
The calamity of sorts, yeah, that caused a
That's-
bunch of them to be you know what the book is
Why
about,
it's
the
called a
curse of
curse.
the Star Wraith.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's called a curse. And one thing I didn't understand per se, because I swear he said that they were cursed by their own god, but they kept praying to him.
Well,
So
it wasn't, the god wasn't wrong. They don't acknowledge the god as being wrong. They acknowledge their own fault, which historically is a questionable thing. But I understand.
I swear he wrote that the god, I think actually it was a goddess, but I could be wrong.
I think it
Whatever
was God.
deity, whatever it was, cursed them and then left them. I swear he wrote that, but for some reason, I swear he also wrote that they were still praying to that deity.
Actually, I believe it was multiple. I think it was multiple deities. Now that I'm thinking about it more.
It could
Are
be.
they even religious? I don't remember them even being like any close to religious.
They weren't heavily religious. Not like the slutty old
Yeah, I'd like
Grassians. Never mind.
I gotta finish my reread on it.
I'm
I was like
assuming
the
it's in the
first one to
hardcover.
get it because Otter came down to Tennessee. So
He's like, this is just for you, Billy Bob said.
and then
He
got
gave
that-
you the hard cover.
Got 9 inches here of hardcover for you.
I want to know if he gave you the hardcover in a Walmart.
You guys do not pay me enough to listen to this.
Maji, I don't pay you nothing. I don't pay you nothing at all. You're here for your own pleasure.
Oh no!
There you go. You
This is
got it.
all getting cut. All of this is cut.
You don't know what I'm going to cut. You little slutty little banana man.
Like someone saying important, so he has to keep it in.
Oh man,
This is critical to Otter's success.
Say,
This
this is
conversation.
derailed from it.
I mean,
Did we
Karis still
lose
wins.
Sybil?
We
Yeah,
did lose Sybil.
but he said that might happen.
Karis still wins.
Yeah, like that's one thing. A lot of people like Cersei in Game of Thrones for Song of Ice and Fire for those who have read
Are
it.
you saying that name wrong on purpose?
What?
Is that what
Xerxes.
you call her?
Cersei.
You were saying Circe.
I did say it once that way. I did not mean to. I was trying not. The names are similar, so I was trying not to fuck it up. Plus, you
Well-
keep on calling Karis the wrong fucking name.
Well, look at Circe. She's literally a falconer. She's got enhanced magically by her goddess, by the blood and shit.
Yeah.
And that's a permanent enhancement. It can't be disenchanted.
And then we got Wine Mom. Who do you think's gonna win?
No, I meant just as characters, not fighting. Like who's the best? Going down to the cage. One woman walks out, probably topless. Who will it be?
Well, that's what I thought you were talking about, actually.
Oh, yeah, definitely the falconer, not the wine mom. Doesn't she gain weight in the later books too?
Yes. Well, she gains weight, and then she's like convinced that her the person who like cleans her clothes and shit is shrinking it. Her servants.
That's right. I thought that was so fucking funny.
Character wise, I mean, I like them both. But the thing is, Cersei is more of a femme fatale.
Yeah, but I think she's still. I don't know. I don't enjoy almost anything about Cersei's character.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Have you read the later books?
again, I've only read the first 3.
Oh,
yeah.
Once you get to book 4, you will love Cersei. I'm just gonna say you'll love to hate her and how stupid she is.
But back to Otter's story. How do you guys feel about the magic and or the world building? It all kind of connects. So I'm curious to hear what y'all think. Maji, the expert, the one who has read this story manuscript more than anyone else here. How do you feel about the world building and magic?
I plead the fifth.
She said,
I'm sorry,
Big, dog, big dong.
Had to do you dirty like that for a second. Billy Bob, how do you feel about the magic and world building?
I deserve that. I came in here unprepared.
I like the world building when it comes to Elgarathians and the other ones. I would like to a little bit more on like the humans, like kind of lacking of like. why
Well,
humans-
Ilgrathians are
Yes.
human. They're just it's kind of like it's like a specific ethnicity of human.
Actually, no. I had this discussion with Otter. I asked him, are they
No, they're
just different
totally different
ethnicities of human, or are they different species? He said they are different species. They're very close, kind of like
I thought he was talking about the Islyrians. The Islyrians are a different species.
and the
Elgarathians are
Elgrathians.
too.
They are
Yeah.
too.
They
Oh.
are
Yeah.
they share common ancestries, but they branched off and differed enough, kind of like Vulcans and Romulans.
I knew
So
you
what
were
hap-
going to say that.
Well, is there a better example?
Not Star Trek.
Not in this group. No.
I'm sorry, you guys. Sorry, you guys do know this about me. I'll share it once again. I fucking can't stand Star Trek. Anything on it so far that I've seen. Anyway.
Okay, the Luxons and their cousin species that name I can't remember from Farscape.
Sure. Well, you lost me
Oh,
there too, but
I
anyway.
know that you.
Or one of the slightly non-human alien races in Star Wars of the
Oh, you know what?
dozens
I
that
got
exist.
a good comparison, but you only understand if you've read Frequency's book. Humans and the what were they called? It starts with a C.
Cetaceans?
Cetaceans.
Yeah.
Cetaceans? Oh, I've been saying
Yeah.
it wrong. Whatever.
Okay, I got you.
That it? Frequency?
Yeah, humans and cetaceans.
Is that how you say it?
Yep.
I think
Cetaceans.
I've been saying like Cretians or whatever the fuck.
That's what I said.
Billy Bob
Yeah,
saying a
I've
word
been
incorrectly
mispronouncing that the whole
couldn't
time.
fucking happen. Couldn't fucking happen. No, not once. It's
Well,
fake news.
It's 4-1, Rangular. You have to change the way you say it now.
Yes.
It's like a guy who came up with a GIF or a GIF. He's like, actually, guys, it's GIF, and the world's like, no,
Not anymore.
not anymore. You think you have power here? No, you merely adopted the internet. I was born to it, molded by it.
Back on track. Frequency.
You go.
Your thoughts on world building and magic?
I probably should have looked more at the map, but I thought it was interesting. There's definitely a history to the world around there. It feels like it's got a very storied past. And so the world building I thought was pretty good. The magic, I'm still, like I said, I just finished reading it this morning, early afternoon, so it's still all kind of settling in. But I thought the magic system was fine. So here's how it seems to work. Some people have that within them, and the awakening can happen different ways. And in Stormbright's case, it was deliberately awakened by Calamtu.
Yeah.
But,
Again, one of the better scenes.
But it seems like there are other methods that one could be awakened. And then when it is awakened, they have different types. There's Psiomancer, Astromancer. The Astromancer can see past and present and potential futures.
Wasn't there a Pyromancer as well? And like not in the book, but they mention it, I thought.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. The Psiomancer, he was summoning demons, and wasn't he actually even controlling like zombies at one point or something like that? Or
No, I thought those were two different things, wasn't it? Like the Psiomancer was one thing, and then he didn't call it a Necromancer, but the Necromancer was a completely different thing.
Yeah. I think Bob is on it.
yeah.
But alas, yeah, I like that. I like that the
Stormbright is
magic
an
was.
I think it's an Aeromancer, is what he is.
I do like that there was implied rules to the magic, but it was very loose. Like it's not putty magic. It's not super soft, but it's very soft magic system. Like there are some kind of guidelines, but it seems very loose, very very old style kind of fantasy, kind of like how magic isn't explained from Gandalf's perspective in Lord of the Rings. Very much
but there
in that
seems
flavor.
to be a rule set to it. Like when Stormbright was going after the Psiomancer, it actually said that he was running low on his energy.
Yeah, and that it could be disastrous if he continued. But it wasn't a situation where it's like, if I do this 3 more times, then this and this will be the consequence. It's not that well spelled out. And for anyone who's read any mainstream fantasy recently, almost everything is very spelled out. It's very, very science kind of based, which can be done well, but I'm glad for a pulpy style fantasy like this, he went a little looser with it.
Yeah, it's like the rules are definitely there, but they're, as you said, they're not spelled out for you. But we see enough, I think, of it happening to get the idea.
Sciomancy is the summoning spirits from the great beyond.
Yeah, and that's what the main kind of antagonistic sorcerer was.
What was the other one? Does it say?
Which one?
There's
necromancy as well.
There is necromancy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me look up the name. I'm in the back. Yeah, it's just called necromancy.
Pyromancy as well.
I thought it was a different name, but that's fine.
So you have these different kind of sorcerers, but then you have someone who's a falconer, like General Karst, and she got her ability is just a simple upping of her physical abilities by a drop of her goddess's blood, which is very different than all of the other kind of magics we've been introduced to. I do like that there's a variety of magic in this world, and it feels very kind of wild and also purposeful.
Now she has enhanced strength. She is stronger than most men. It is possible some dudes will be stronger than her, but most dudes she can match their strength. She also has increased durability
and
to
speed.
where she sustained wounds that would be fatal to most normal people. and was able to keep fighting through them. Granted, she felt them. Granted, it did slow her down some, but she was able to keep pushing through what would have killed most others.
Well, that's why she was able to survive getting this the ick from the Star Wraith, you know.
Mhm.
At the end.
I am a little curious how widespread the magic is, because the story, another blessing / curse of the story was that it was so focused on the brothers. We didn't get a huge view of like the wider world, so you don't know how common it is to say find another sorcerer out in the wild, so to say. So that is one thing I'd be curious about. Not a criticism, more just a kind of pondering.
But Steele's fighting skill increased dramatically throughout the book, because by the end, I mean, he damn near stalemated Karst.
It was him and Kitala, I think.
So he had
Yeah,
to-
but Kitala was knocked out of the fight, and he continued for a while afterwards with them one-on-one.
That's true. Also, I will admit some confusion at the end. I thought when she got her, she was getting sucked at the end there. I did say it that way on purpose. Fuck you. I
She
thought
would
it was,
appreciate that.
and then she cut your throat. But anyway, I thought she was going to be stuck looking like an old woman, and a small part of me is sad that she's not. I thought,
Oh, when we were beta reading it, I even asked Otter about that. Is she supposed to look like a wrinkled old crone now?
that's kind of the impression that I had in the moment while I was reading it. Yeah.
I think it's like I said, I got to do my full reread. I don't know if he ever clarified that she just looks like a couple years older or some shit.
In conversation, he's told me that she still looks good, and she's not this wrinkled old crone. But I need to confirm whether that is confirmed in the book or not. If it's not, it would be a very important thing to include as the story continues.
King Bob, do you
So
remember?
she's aging like Linda Carter.
I actually, I did not get that impression when I read it, that she had grown old. I just assumed that because she had been imbued with the power of her goddess, that she was, I won't say the word immune, because probably not immune, but was able to resist those effects to a point. So
And she obviously did. I think any normal person would have died under such a
right.
terrific force.
Now, of course, that does leave the door open that if he really wants to go that route, he could say that it causes something in her that, you know, makes her ill or something. I mean, you could do that. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Also, I'm glad, I will specify this, I'm glad General Karst, if she's still a general, is still alive. But
Yes.
there is one, I don't know if it's a missed opportunity, but it just goes to show that different people write things differently. At the end scene there, like her last scene, when she's kind of contemplating whether she should end her own life or go back or give up, or what she should do in her situation, considering all that's happened. I had a brief moment where I thought one of her own men would come up behind her and slit her throat. I got that idea stuck in my head. It never happened, but if it were me writing it, I had that moment of certainty where I'm like, this bitch would have been dead. Yeah. And it would not be out of character for her people to do that either, because she had a moment of weakness and they definitely could have taken advantage in that moment.
It would have to be someone of like a high rank. It would be a major or something like that would do that. But I could see that.
Well,
But-
It would still be difficult though, because one thing we're forgetting to mention, she does have almost a bit of a spidey sense, for lack of better words.
That's true.
She does, but in that moment, she was considering like just taking her own life too.
True,
Well,
good point.
disgraced at
Her
the
focus
end.
would be away from that, and that
Like
moment.
she's completely disgraced at the end, by the way,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
because our God said, "Hey, bitch, secede or don't come back."
Well, yeah, I'm glad he changed that.
That's something he changed.
Well, yeah, originally he had her going back to her
Mhm.
goddess and the group, and I guess I'm not the only one that said this, but I said that sounds so out of character for her. She would not accept failure,
Yeah.
She would be like, I'm going to kill those two no matter what it takes. I don't give a crap how long it takes, where I have to go, what I have to do. Those two are going to die. So that was my impression. That's what I told Otter, and he went with it. I liked it.
Also, I feel like I got to know Stormbright as a character pretty well throughout this story. I think in the next story, I would like to see I'd like to see Steel a little bit more. Like, his abilities developed, but who he is didn't seem... I don't have as clear of a picture of who he is. And I'm not...
Bro,
And because of what happened to his other half, that's a perfect launching point to deal
for
with
sure.
that.
Wrangler's right that his skills were amazing, but as a character, I didn't feel that he actually grew that much. It was more about Stormbright and his growth.
For sure, yeah. And he underwent the trial, so to say, and he was also training physically, and he developed his abilities and made decisions that seemed more critical to the plot. Like, don't get me wrong, Steel came in clutch in certain moments, but it wasn't his decisions didn't really move the plot in the same way that Stormbright's did. You know what I mean?
To be fair, it's also because he was like tied up in a romance thing was supposed to be going on with him.
Tied up.
I was gonna say, now that I think
didn't read
about
that scene.
Could have known you were going there. So now that I think about it, actually, I could see you wanting to write one brother as the unchangeable rock that the other one can rely on while he's going through his growth stages. Because if they're both going, that might be a little bit too much chaos in their lives.
It'd be too very plus it would make them seem more similar too, because they're already in the same story together, going the same direction in a certain sense, and then to also parallel their kind of arcs. I do see the wisdom in it. I'm intrigued by his character. I want to see more of him and learn more about him.
You know, an odd example of that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first live action movie there in the 90s.
I love it.
It was
so good.
Quote that movie.
It was kind of Raphael keeping Casey Jones from going over the edge. And then when you get to the last one with TMNT, it was Casey Jones sitting there counseling Raph. So kind of went full circle.
It was. Also, that what was that 2000? What was that 2011? That movie kicks ass, by the way. I love that.
Yeah,
which one? TMNT?
Yeah, the animated one.
Yeah, because I still do consider that in canon with the 3 live actions, and even if it isn't, everything lines up perfectly.
It lines up.
You look at the Shredder helmet on the back mantle there; it's the same style that they had before.
What you got, Maji?
I think it was 2007.
Am I? Oh, bro, I might
because
be
it came out when I was still working for Disney.
She is correct. It was 2007.
I thought that in my head, but I'm like, no, 2011 also sounds right. But
holy frick, I can't believe it's that old.
Dude, I was born in '94. I was fucking 13 years old when that movie came out.
Yeah, but remember the shelf at the end?
I just dated myself.
Oh, anyway.
Well, yeah, it's kind of cool when the one character helps the other grow, and then later on, the favor is returned in similar but different ways.
Maybe that's actually his original plan.
Yeah, he has mentioned some plot lines that never ended up in this story, but it leaves plenty of opportunity for him moving forward to improve his prose, his overall pacing and writing, and also do some deeper character work. I'm excited to see where he goes forward with this.
And by the way, Kahuna, something you mentioned earlier, you said you're glad that he didn't kill General Karst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am too, and I wanted them to do her in by the end, and by the end, I'm glad they didn't, because something about her meeting her end there would have been so unsatisfying.
Exactly.
It would feel like her character is so good, or she's such I enjoy her character and the effect she has on the story. It would feel like a crime to waste that by having such an early off death. And I'm of the opinion, if she was going to die, it should have been her own people at the end, not the brothers. As cool as that could have been.
But we need to see more direct interaction between her and the brothers. before she goes, if she
Al-
goes.
Also, we need to see her in a situation where she's not the general overlord of some powerful army invading a nation. We need to see what happens when she's in this, like, roughing it, kind of like they had to.
Well, you will be seeing that in the second one. Like I said, she has no position of power really at the end of this book.
No, but she
Yeah,
still
but it would
has the
probably make
imbued
her even
power of
more.
a goddess. What?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Whoa.
Keep up.
Bob
That's it.
first, Maji second.
All right. She still has the power of her goddess imbued within her.
Mm-hmm.
So she still is a scary person to deal with.
Right.
And her assets. All of her beautiful, powerful, feminine assets.
But now
I
she
haven't-
doesn't have any slaves waiting on her to feed
good
her and all
grief.
this other shit. Now she's got to go like hunt or do
Billy
something.
Bob, the woman was speaking.
It's fine.
That
I have
bit.
a slight delay compared to you guys. We've all know this.
All right.
That's
I'm going to
true.
mute myself now so that my.
No, don't mute. Don't mute.
All
I haven't
men
even
mute.
finished
Let the woman
damn
speak.
book. No, but what I have read of her, actually, with her losing all her abilities, like I said, I haven't finished the book, but from what I've understand from the spoilers, that would probably make her even more dangerous in the next book.
That's what I was going to say. But just because she is
Wrangler, the woman speaking.
television.
No, I'm the
She
speak
stopped.
away. That's all I had to see. Damn
I
it.
know, I'm just fucking with you.
Edit it all.
No, seeing her in a situation where she's more desperate, that will, for her, a character like hers, it makes her all the more dangerous.
I
The
have a
claws
feeling
come
we're
out.
going to see the Black Mamba come out.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at her basic as a basic character, like Billy Bob said, she's a zealot. And
Yeah, Billy
before
Bob
she-
said she is a
Yeah,
zealot.
she's a zealot.
Yeah,
But
she'll
before
come out
her
with a
zealot-
black mamba, and Steel will come out with a mongoose.
Wait, is that a word? Zealoty? Zealoty? The target of her zealotness, whatever, was the goddess. Now it's gonna be revenge. And because she's a zealot, you know she's gonna do everything she can to kill those two.
And her back's against the wall. If she fills her goddess, that's it.
Oh, I
Not to
don't think she
mention,
cares about
there's
that anymore.
nothing more vindictive than a chick.
There is some truth to that.
Well, yeah, I'm divorced. I
Argument
know
here.
that very thoroughly.
It was giving Christian some flashbacks. It's quite traumatizing.
I did mention that to Otter and you actually in voice chat. I was like, this reminds me of my ex-wife. Holy shit.
Should we have said trigger warning for you, Kahuna?
Oh, fucking, he should have. Jesus. Like hurting other people and like being an evil temptress in the vision. I'm like, that's familiar.
Masturbating with strangers, weird shit like that.
Jerking off and feeling bad about it. Anyway, sorry, Maji.
The new
You're
low.
good. I'm just shaking my head. You can't see it through the, shut off camera. It's just happening.
Now, don't worry, we're not like Tubin. We wait till after the stream.
I mean,
Yes. Next, she will take majority of your income and also your children. After that. Oh, thank God she doesn't have children. Holy fuck.
She got the gold mine.
Well, as far as we know.
That's true. We don't know enough about her. Maybe she does have fucking kids out there somewhere.
That's a scary thought.
I know. It'd be as fucking crazy as she is.
Uh-huh.
Also, because of her
She is
power that she's
psycho.
received from the goddess, she could be older than we think, too.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, she could be much older than we actually realize.
Do you need
Wow,
to remember
speculation.
if we're ever given a age range for her?
We're given an impression of what she looks like, but some of that comes from the art as well. But it's implied she's in her probably 30s. That's my impression.
well, Otter has suggested she was originally going to be a lot older, almost a hag, until he saw the art.
Oh, okay. We get a direct age. She's 47 years old.
She does not look. Again, I'll attribute that to the magic of the goddess a little bit.
But he also says that by the Ilgrathian standards, that's a fairly young age.
So it's like a D&D orc or elf or some crap like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So 44,
They
they're
can
like-
live up to 180 years old. So she's like
Okay.
fucking 20-something years old.
yeah, equivalently anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe younger.
Anyway, so that brings up what we've kind of already been talking about, but it brings up the final question, I think, when it comes to these kind of book-like discussions, what hopes do you guys have? We'll do this in order. What hopes do you guys have for his writing and/or the sequels of this novel in the future? Starting with Manji, who has definitely finished and thoroughly enjoyed every page of this book.
Well, if he does continue on, hopefully he takes the good and the bad, because it sounds like he has really well developed characters, some potential for growth, and I bet you the next book will be killer.
And we've talked about on stream, it started off very epic fantasy, and changing that in like almost fully into a pulp is a very hard thing to do. Writing it as a pulp to begin with is much easier, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, no, I hope that his prose becomes a little clearer in the next book. I'm excited to see the development of the characters and writing a pulp from the start. That's what I'm hoping for. What do you got, Billy Bob Sack?
Yeah, pretty much follow up with that. I mean, he's starting out. He'll have his second book starting out with all the stuff he's learned from his first book. Whether he's going pulp or more epic fantasy, either way, he'll start this book up with that vision. So
he has implied to me that he's going to go lean more towards pulp rather than more towards epic fantasy, which I think it's the right choice. I think the shorter, punchier style is definitely going to be a benefit to him. Also, so Wrangler, sorry, go ahead.
More athletic tits. That's all I'm saying. Really pushing for it.
I had an edited photo of Tits doing the workout routine from Rocky. I never sent it to him, but I had it for a minute.
I'm definitely hoping for a sequel to this, and I'm hoping he expands on this world even more. It seems like he definitely has ideas kind of in the peripheral, and I'm hoping those weren't just filler. I'm hoping some of the things he'll expand into, because it definitely seems like there's a wider cosmos out there. There's 2 moons, and maybe this is some kind of Final Fantasy anime stuff, but I want to see stuff happening with those moons.
I want to see a full moon in the next novel. Anyway,
you're wanting Otter to moon you in the next book? Is that what you're saying?
You know what? Sake of argument, sure. Yeah, and also there's things that were poked at but not really fully addressed. Like there's a part that the epic fantasy part of my brain really wanted them to explore those islands, the floating islands that they just made a brief stop at midway in the story. I'm like, I feel like there was supposed to be something that happened here, but
they were supposed to be the original, like when the far out empire from the Islyrians. And then you had them weird fucking I envisioned them as what are they called? The ones on the bottom of the ocean?
Crustaceans?
No. The mantis. Manatees, whatever the fuck they are. Not manatees.
Manatees at the bottom of the ocean?
No, the big giant creatures that's on the bottom of the ocean.
Squids? Whales?
Like a Leviathan?
Flounder?
No.
Kraken?
No. The flat ones, the ones that
mermaid
with Finding Nemo, where they fucking get on the thing. The
stingrays,
anglerfish. Yeah, those are not deep ocean.
Stingrays, they're that deep, dude.
Oh, learn something new every day. Fuck it. You know the flat ones at the bottom of the ocean, mermaids. No, damn it, fish are friends, not food. Anyway.
Oh, they're food.
We need some sushi ASMR in here any second now. Just like, you know.
There's very few fish I'm willing not to eat.
Like at this point in my life, I think I'd eat almost anything as long as it wasn't too spicy.
Aren't you supposed to be eating apples and carrots?
Because you're a pony.
Should be.
Don't worry, Maji. You will have some oats. Filled up your trough before I left. Anyway,
I'll go get some beef and bacon.
Ooh.
You know they have beef sushi in Japan.
I'd try that.
I would too.
I'm not big on the fish, but beef, yeah.
All right, we gotta get to King Bob.
I can't.
King Bob. Hopes for the
King.
future of his writing and/or the sequel to this particular novel.
Well, he has to write a sequel. That you can't end it like that and not write a sequel. We probably have to beat him. Pretend like he was a clam and throw him against a rock or something. But
smashing clams.
Smashing
Nah,
clams was
smash-
awesome.
Give him the
Clams.
clam treatment.
I think I've already said most of the things I want to know all about, like the background of the Star Race, the background of the people holding the fort, the king. Like, I want to know all about these things, but I could see this going even further than that. He could do a trilogy with the brothers together, split them up, and then write 2 more trilogies of the brothers having their own stories. I mean,
Yeah,
there's so
yeah.
many ways you could go with this. I see nothing but potential.
Yeah, and there's other nations out there, whole other places not explored, other magics and such. And plus, it'd be interesting to see the gods interact. Like, part of me views this, and I'm thinking back to Greek mythology. Like, is this where the Age of Heroes kind of starts, where the gods are still there, but they become less and less active, and eventually the heroes of mankind and all these other worldly races overcome the gods and become greater than?
I kind of
Yeah.
wonder if the gods are just having issues with each other and using the mortals to play their own games.
Well, we know that's more than likely. That's how they always
Yeah.
act.
Like I said, I'm glad Clam 2 wasn't a Zeus-like character, because we know that Stormbright would have been Storm.
You
God
keep saying
mythology.
that, but you don't know if he was a Bill Cosby, okay? That's all I'm saying.
We don't know for certain. That's true. That's true.
I'd like to know if there's also more magic involved in this world of his. Because so far, we really have 2 different types.
We have the sorcerers of various kinds.
Yeah, the sorcerers, where the magic's coming from yourself, and then you've got the magic coming from the god being imbued into you. So those are 2 different kinds of magic. Is there more? Is there more different ways to get
Well,
magic?
are they? Hold up. I don't think they're different. Because
No, they
it's
are.
just-
They are technically different because he was awakened by a god, yes, but the magic is still coming from him. Whereas with the general, the magic is coming only from a goddess. It's not coming from her at all. So
yeah,
technically, those are 2 different kinds of magic.
it's a gift imbued that she's been imbued with, but
Right.
it's a gift. It's not hers. It's not something
Exactly.
that, like, I believe that goddess could take it away with a snap of a finger if she so desired.
Oh,
And then you
probably
throw
could,
alchemy in there
but-
if you wanted. I mean, yeah, there's lots of options there.
Wouldn't that be such a
But,
bitch move to
I
do,
asked-
like in the second book?
I asked Otter if, like, somebody cast an anti-magic field, if Karst would lose her extra strength, and he said no. It was a one and done. I do agree with you. I think if we had the chance to ask him, and I'm probably going to, if Ilgrathi wanted to say, you know what, no more, I'm taking it back, I'm pretty sure she could, no problem. But any magic dispelling or anything won't prevent her from having access to it.
She's a god. If she can't kill a mortal, you're not a god in my book.
Well, like I said, like looking at I know it's not all based on Greek mythology. There's a lot of stuff tossed in there, but it does remind me of Greek mythology, like the sword and sandal kind of Greek mythology kind of stories. But I'm like, there's the trajectory of the mythos, so to say. There's pre-gods, prehistory, which is all the titans and the elements and all things that exist in life as an essence becoming individual. Then there's the gods who come up and give shape to all of that. And then there's the Age of Heroes, where mankind overcomes. And it would be kind of that could be a very cool development of the story, in my
Could
opinion.
also be like Wrangler's book where the gods are bound what they can and can't do.
Don't spoil it. I couldn't.
Bad Maji. Bad
It's
Maji.
not spoiling.
Bad Maji.
Bad.
In the first book.
No, bad Maji.
I didn't know there were gods in his book.
The
I know,
kahunas
There's no
on those
such thing as
gods,
There's a cat.
tremendous.
There's a cat. There's a lot of cats.
Like, Wrangler, do you want to use that soundbite I did on that Wing It to what a couple weeks ago? Haley Star.
I went back and listened to that clip a couple times just because it was making me laugh my ass off.
Nothing about it fits the tone at all.
No,
And I knew that. That's why I went for it. Oh, and then fucking RH Snow, she actually used the fucking like little baby promo I used in that video for her stuff. Oh, I saw it, like she posted it on Twix. I was like, holy shit. Oh, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's something too. I was read the first chapter of Steel and Stormbright on one of my reading streams and was one of my favorites that I've gotten to read on stream. The language flowed nicely. The sentence to sentence worked really well. The names were, well, some of them were tricky, but not so tricky that I couldn't work it out. And it was one of my favorites that I've read on my stream so far. So there's that. And I'm excited to, I'm going to ask him, I may actually read another chapter or another scene from the story on one of these live streams. So that'd be a fun thing to do. But alas, I think that's going to be it for us, guys. It's been almost 2 hours. Any closing thoughts? Any message to Otter you want to tell him before we sign off on here?
Maji.
Otter, lay off the clams.
Actually, he could use a clam in his life. Straighten that boy out.
You damn dirty Ferget. Get Stormbright laid, or he's gonna be gay. You know, we're all gonna call him gay.
If he doesn't get some clam action in the next book, we're calling him homosexual. Wrangler, any messages for Mr. Otter?
I'm kicking that Brugmar's ass.
King Bob.
Nah, man, I'm really happy for the guy. I can't wait to see what else he brings to this table. It'll be awesome.
Oh yeah, no, you could tell he's put a lot of work into it.
Otter, you've done a tremendous job with this beautiful, beautiful book. Look, our little Irishman did a tremendous job on the art. Beautiful art. But if there are no athletic tits in the next book, I'm going to call it fake news, and no one will ever read it.